Okay.
بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه ومن استنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي وبعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. My brothers and sisters that have joined us, today we're going to have two guest speakers, Brother Dijonne and Br.Yusuf, hopefully, and we're going to talk about how Ramadan has been for our brothers here, and both of them have been reverts to Islam in the past. How long ago was it, Brother Dijonne? When did you?
I converted in 2018. 2019, sorry.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah, very good. So it's very recent. So basically, yes, we're going to try to get, your experience this past Ramadan, and just to show that everybody's going to have a slightly different experience, and it's a normal thing to, if you have some difficulties during the month of Ramadan. So, Brother Dijonne, I'm going to start off by asking, was this your first Ramadan?
No, this is my second Ramadan.
Okay. So, how did it go for you in this past month?
It was a little difficult from work, from my first experience having Ramadan. The difficulties that I went through was having to having my prayers at different, I would have to do it later than I would normally will, and because of the COVID I cannot go to Jummah.
Okay.
So difficulty in that way.
Tell me about your first Ramadan.
My first Ramadan, I lived in New York at that time, and it was I liked it a lot, eating wise, it was not a problem for me at all. It felt really natural, which was really kind of exciting for me. I didn't go through, maybe the first week I had a little hardship about eating, but after a while it was really easy. I had all the brothers and sisters to help me out, guide me. I would go to the masjid. It was really fun. I really enjoyed it.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Maybe it's just me, but how do you feel fasting in the month of Ramadan as opposed to fasting outside of Ramadan? How do you physically feel?
Physically, I don't feel anything physically, to be honest. I don't feel that much difference.
Okay.
It feels natural, I would say. If I would be really honest.
Okay. For me, it feels significantly easier to fast in the month of Ramadan than outside of Ramadan. Yeah, and I've had a couple of people say the same thing. I think it could be from the blessings of Ramadan itself. When you had your first Ramadan, how long was it after you had become a Muslim? How much? I don't know if you heard me. Can you repeat that? I wasn't able to hear you. Brother Dijonne?
It was the same year.
Okay, it was the same year.
The same year.
Okay.
It was prior, maybe.
Pardon me. I think we are having some technical difficulties. Brother Dijonne, I think we're breaking up on your end.
Was that same year? Hello? Okay. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes. Can you hear us?
Hello?
Yeah. Yeah, you're breaking up, Brother Dijonne.
Can you hear me?
Do you have your Wi-Fi on?
Yes, I can hear y'all perfectly. Right now.
Hello?
I don't have any Wi-Fi on.
Okay, so I think I don't know if Brother Dijonne can hear me, but if you can hear me, let's try to fix the connection. And in the meantime, I'll just talk about a little bit about Ramadan for my brothers and sisters that are watching, just to get a what do you call it? common ground on it. Now, we know that the month of Ramadan is a month of fasting that has been prescribed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is one of the five pillars of Islam. And the five pillars include taking the shahada, believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then the prayers, the 5 times prayers, the fasting in Ramadan, the paying the zakah, and the ability to do Hajj, or doing the Hajj if the person has the ability to do so, if the person can afford it financially. And so the month of Ramadan, or fasting in Ramadan, is a obligation on every single Muslim. And this month is the month that the Quran was revealed, and in it there's tremendous blessings for us. Our rewards that we get for the good deeds that are done in this month are multiplied exponentially 700 times to even more than that. And there's various evidence to support that. And one of the biggest blessings that we get in this month is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed a special night, which I'm sure you have heard of, called Laylatul Qadr. And in this night, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the reward for this night, so whatever good deeds that you do, if you're standing and praying, if you're reciting the Quran, if you're giving zakah, the reward for this night is the reward of 83 years. So the fasting in the daytime that you're doing, the praying that you do in the nighttime, the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala you're doing, it's going to be multiplied as if you did it straight for 83 plus years, right? Allah says it's better than 1,000 months. And this is a tremendous blessing on the Muslim ummah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, an exceptional gift. If you are, when I in my early years of Islam, one of the things that would overcome me was that I would never be able to do enough, right? I would never be able to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enough. I will never be able to show that type of gratitude and shukr and devotion that is deserving of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful, Ar-Rahman, and He's Ar-Rahim. So out of His mercy, He's given us this one night, which He gives us the reward for whatever good deeds that we do in this night. That reward is given to us as if we did it our entire lives. And what's the average lifespan of a human being nowadays, right? The average lifespan anywhere between 60 to maybe 80 years on average. And then that's amazing where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us 1,000 months worth of reward on this one night. And if you are able to catch this night of power, the Laylatul Qadr, throughout your entire lifetime. So every year that you're praying, every year that you are fasting, every year that you're making dua, every year that you're reading Quran on this night, you're getting the reward of 83 years. And this is a huge blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is one of the nights that the Muslims heavily search for. And the Prophet ﷺ, there's various hadith that says that the night of power, the Laylatul Qadr, is one of the last 10 nights. There's some evidence that say that it's on the odd nights. There's some scholars that would say that it's more strongly to be on the 27th night or maybe the 25th night. And one of the reasons why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of the wisdoms that we can try to understand as why He didn't tell us which night is Laylatul Qadr, was because that we would strive for it, and we would strive to get the reward of Laylatul Qadr on every single night, at least on the last 10 nights of Ramadan. And this is basically an effort from us, right? To get this huge ni'mah, this huge blessing, this huge bounty from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have to show that we really want it, right? So what is it that we're going to do if we really wanted it? So if we really want it, we're going to be looking for it every single night, especially in the last 10 nights, especially on the odd nights, hoping to catch Laylatul Qadr. And this is really a sacrifice that it's a small sacrifice that we do in order to get this huge reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And basically in Islam, all of us want Jannah, right? And all of us want to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And sometimes we may have to really show that we really want it. And then these things may be in terms of being patient when there's difficulties, being generous when things are going really well for us, when Allah's giving us a lot of prosperity and a lot of bounties, and we use that to give back to the community. And I'm really hoping you guys are hearing me. I can't hear Brother Dijonne at all. And and I hope I'm not just talking to the camera. But if you're hearing me, and just know that this night Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has really blessed the Muslim Ummah. On top of that, the month of Ramadan, it's an amazing month because it's the entire Muslim world in doing this worship together, right? What other religion can you say is doing something like this, so on such a scale where, for 30 days, everybody's fasting, for 30 nights, everybody's praying. It's an amazing thing. This year, unfortunately, we were not able to meet together in the masajid and pray together the Taraweeh and even the prayers that came afterwards, the night prayers. And again, this is a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala regarding the coronavirus, and we have to bear with patience and inshallah hope that Allah protects us and takes it away soon. And just basically have patience regarding it. But it didn't exclude us from worshiping Allah on our own. And really, I know like a lot of people really, really love being together and praying Taraweeh together and praying Qiyam al-Layl together. But I've also asked many people this past Ramadan, because of the coronavirus, how was your worship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And many people responded that it was amazing. It was amazing. Despite us not being able to go to the houses of Allah, and meet one another and pray with one another and listen to the beautiful recitation of the Quran by our qaris and really just spend that time together as one community. Despite that, a lot of people really benefited in having that solitude with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So on the positive note is that people were able to worship Allah at their own pace. They were able to make their own dua. They were able to spend more time that's focused on worshiping, as opposed to traveling or logistical stuff, getting your family members to the car, making sure everybody's ready, taking everybody to the masjid, bringing everybody home, so on and so forth. There was a lot more time that was people were able to benefit from. And so I want you to keep in mind that in the month of Ramadan, all of us are highly motivated and very focused and very steadfast in worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And which is a beautiful thing, absolutely beautiful thing. And one of the blessings of Ramadan is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is training us in this month. So He's saying that in these 30 days, you were able to fast every single day, you're able to pray your salawat every single day, you're able to recite Quran every single day, you're able to read Taraweeh prayer every single night, right? You're able to pray Qiyam every single night, right? Then that means that we can do it outside as well, right? We have been physically being conditioned to do something, and it really shows that all of us are able to continue worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you loved praying in the middle of the night, and if you loved reciting the Quran, and if you loved connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not only Allah in Ramadan. You understand? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is our creator at all times. So every single day of our lives, we can have that connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every single day of our lives, we can actually, in our 5 prayers, in the prayers outside of that, in reciting the Quran, in making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, every single night in our entire lives, we can have that connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this month is showing us that, listen, we have that ability to push the things aside that don't benefit us and focus on what benefits us tremendously. And we should really, we should really look back. We should really look back and see how much we were able to do, and we should try to continue that as much as we can, because the feeling that you get when you are making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the feeling that you get when you're reciting the Quran, the feeling that you get when you are when you're having that, when your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is growing. And there's no reason that should stop just because Ramadan has ended. Absolutely not. It should continue going throughout our whole lives, inshallah. So in regards to the rulings of Ramadan, the fasting during the month of Ramadan is an obligation on all Muslims, with some exceptions. Now, the exceptions to the people from fasting are those who are ill and cannot make up the fasts, those who are traveling, okay, those who have a legitimate excuse of not fasting, and And you can put in this category as well people, females that are having their cycles, and maybe even females that are pregnant at the time. So every single case is going to be different, but there are situations where a person is not going to be able to fast. There may be a day or two they're sick, they're not feeling well. Maybe it could be other reasons. Maybe their job is very difficult, it's physically hard on them. The summer months is difficult, and so on and so forth. So there's a variety of reasons why a person may not be able to fast. If the person has a legitimate excuse and they're not able to fast, then the ruling of that is that they are to make that fast outside of the month of Ramadan. That's the ruling of that fast. So like I said, people that are traveling, people that are sick, people that have a legitimate excuse, persons that are, females in their cycles that are not able to do so in that time, the ruling of that is to make it up outside of the fast. If there are any Muslims here who are watching and you have a question of wanting to know what to do if you missed Ramadan or missed fasting Ramadan out of ignorance, meaning that you didn't know that it was obligatory upon you, right? And this is a personal thing for me growing up. When we were in high school, for example, or even junior high school, there are many people that may not have known at that time for them that the fasting was obligatory. There's two general ideas of how to make up that fast. The first is that first opinion is that every person that missed the fast must make it up in one way or another, and they would have the intention of making up the last fast that they missed. So they would just do extra fasting. And the other opinion is that they would just do as much as they can in extra fasting, because if they don't have any count of how many days they've missed or how many years they've missed, and they don't know how many to make up, then for them it would be recommended to just do an extra amount of what do you call it? Supererogatory fasting, meaning fasting that's not fard, an extra amount of those. And this is one of the opinions of Imam al-Taymiyyah rahimahullah. And so that would be the thing with fasting. Now, there was some question Brother Dijonne had asked before we were able to, before we actually logged on together, and then unfortunately we couldn't continue with talking with him. I really wish that we could, but inshallah, maybe we can do this another day with him. It'll be very, I think, beneficial for everybody to get an idea of how different people in the community have experienced Ramadan. But there was a question that he mentioned, that one of his colleagues was telling that he shouldn't fast during Ramadan, that it's not healthy for him. And I've heard about people talking about this, people that don't know much about Islam, that say that fasting is very difficult and it's not just and it's not healthy and it's very unhealthy for you. Now, there are excuses for some people who have a legitimate excuse for not being able to fast. Maybe they are sick, maybe they have a health condition, maybe they are not able to accommodate their health or their travels or whatever the excuse may be. For them, there's an excuse to fast. But for the Muslims, for the rest of us, it is for us to fast. Now, very interestingly, growing up my entire life in public school, I went to public elementary school, public junior high school, public high school, college that was in the public, but it was not a Muslim university. So growing up, I have had a lot of experience with non-Muslims who don't seem to understand what fasting is and why do we have to do it so difficult in such a difficult manner. What's amazing is in the last, I would say, maybe 5 years, in the past 5 years, it could be a little bit more, there has been a lot of evidence to suggest that fasting is extremely healthy for you. Way more healthy than the person could have previously imagined. Now, the misconception in terms of eating in the past, let's say 20, 30 years, was that you have to eat breakfast, you have to eat lunch, you have to eat dinner, you have to eat multiple times a day, you have to eat 6 times a day, you have to eat 7 times a day, in order to keep the metabolism going and so on and so forth. And the Prophet ﷺ, in the hadith, he said that the worst vessel a person can fill is the stomach, And back then, let's say 15, 20, 30 years ago, that hadith was contradictory to what the science stated. But today the science is saying, no, fasting seems to promote longevity. Fasting seems to promote the length of one's life. When they test animals in the lab, and they compare the ones that are fasting versus the ones that are well fed, the ones that are fasting seem to live longer. And there's a lot of evidence to say that fasting is really, really, really good for longevity. And this is a continuous study. And if you do your research, you'll see that fasting is an amazing thing. So much so that you have people now that are fasting for days straight. Like fasting Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, without breaking the fast. Right? They call it prolonged fasting. Okay, you may have heard of intermittent fasting, which is a very common term that many fitness gurus are. I apologize if the plane is making noise. I'm just going to pause for a second. Okay, so many fitness gurus are highly recommending things like intermittent fasting, where you fast for 16 hours a day. Right? In this past summer, I think our fast was between 16 and 17 hours. In previous summers, I think we had fasts that are a little bit longer, maybe up to 20 hours. Because, it's a lunar calendar, so it changes. The season changes with each Ramadan, right? So last year, I think the fast was a little bit longer, and the year before that, the fast was longer than that. But anyways, you have people that are saying that fasting for 16 hours a day, while only eating for 8 hours a day, is very good in terms of bringing down your weight. And bringing down the weight is extremely important in terms of your overall health. Then you have some people who are saying that prolonged fasting is not detrimental to a person's health whatsoever, and rather it promotes longevity. And one of the benefits of it is that it uptakes the cells in your body that are old and creates new ones. Right? So this is I forget the term, what it's called. It's autophagy. And it's an amazing thing, if you want to look into it. However, in Islam, we don't have to do that. We don't have to fast for 7 days straight. We don't have to fast for 5 days straight. We only fast during when the sun is up, and we break our fast in the evening time. And if we want to fast on our own and follow the recommendation of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his fasting method was so amazing, where he would fast Mondays. This is outside Ramadan. He would fast Mondays and Thursdays. Okay. So that's 8 days in the month, right? And then he would fast on 3 days in the middle of the month, right? So it's 9, 10, 11. So a little bit more than a third of the month it would be time spent fasting. And this is an amazing breakdown, an amazing way to fast and help the body in terms of longevity and healing and so on and so forth. And so this is the Islamic approach to it. It's not recommended for a person to fast, every single day. The Prophet ﷺ said the best fast is the fasting of Dawood, where he fasted every other day. If you want to do that, you don't have to. This is not something that everybody can do. This is not something that everybody can do. The sunnah of the fasting, the Prophet ﷺ would fast Mondays and Thursdays, and the 3 right days a month, which is the 3 middle days in the month, he would fast. And if you can do that, man, there's a tremendous amount of blessings for you, inshallah. So don't think that fasting is unhealthy for you. Don't think that fasting is something that is detrimental to your health. Rather, it's the complete opposite. Rather, it's actually really, really healthy for you, really good for your health. A lot of people that fast, I'm talking about non-Muslims now, when they fast, they say they feel a lot more alert and a lot more aware of things, able to work properly, able to focus, able to and not have this mental fog, right? And the reason why they say this is because there's no ups and down in the blood sugar, right? There's no spiking of the blood sugar, which causes insulin to go up, which causes the blood sugar to rush into the cells, which causes you to get hungry again. There's a lot of effects that happen when you're eating. A lot of things happen. So when you're fasting, you're avoiding this. You're avoiding this spike of blood sugar. So the body is forced to create its own sugar, glucose, for energy. And it does that by breaking down. Well, first it uses the glucose that's stored in your cells. And it's called glycogen. They break that down and they use it as energy. And if they need to, then they end up burning. Then they take the fat cells and they convert that to energy. And one of the ways that they convert it to energy is they turn it into ketones. And ketones is a compound that when your body is using it, when your brain is using ketones as a source of fuel, it seems to be, for many people, it seems to affect them very positively in terms of their cognition, in terms of their thinking, in terms of their ability to work and solve problems. And it also keeps their hunger levels down. So this is why a lot of non-Muslims fast. They fast to increase their lifespan. They fast to get healthier, get more fit. They fast to increase their mental awareness and mental capability. Even fasting without drinking any water. You can look up the term. It's called dry fasting. Well, they'll fast. They will not drink any water, and this is really to just use up the body's ability to burn fat for fuel, and create its own water molecules. So there's a lot of let's say scientific evidence that support fasting. So all of us as Muslims now, even if there was no scientific evidence, because we don't base Islam on science, right? We don't say that Islam has to agree on science, because science changes, right? Today it may say one thing, like I said, 10, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, the science was you have to eat 6-7 times a day, otherwise you're going to starve away, right? As a matter of fact, no, that's not the case. Rather, if you're fasting, it shows that it promotes muscle building. It actually promotes a spike in growth hormone. It promotes, it stops the degradation of muscle tissue. It actually makes you very strong. So now science is saying the complete opposite of what it said just 10 years ago, right? So we don't try to say that, oh, this is scientifically agreeable in Islam. This is why Islam is the truth. No, Islam is the truth because Islam has been revealed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we always must take that, understand that whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, whatever He commands us to do and whatever He forbids us from doing, basically it's for the best. It's for our own good. It's for our own good, right? If you look at all of His commands, all of His prohibitions, of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's commands and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's prohibitions, if you look at all of them, you'll see all of that is for the good of ourselves and the good of society, right? Look at fasting. Now science says it lets you live longer, right? It says it promotes your muscles from to grow. It prevents your muscles from degrading. It allows your brain to use special type of fuel. It allows a person to have good cognition. It allows a person to lose weight. So many things science is saying this, but Allah has told us, has commanded us to fast ages ago, right? And it's not just the Muslim Ummah that fasted. There are people before us fasted. Musa Islam was told to fast for 40 days, right? So the fasting is not something new. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us. So He knows what is best for us. He knows what is best for us. So physically fasting is a very powerful thing. And spiritually it's also a very powerful thing. Spiritually, fasting is very powerful. And we mentioned the blessings of the month of Ramadan, in the night, the night of power. And in terms of outside of Ramadan, when you're fasting, it really calms the emotions, right? It prevents a person from being angry. It prevents a person from being lustful and falling into the desires. This is why the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when the companions asked him about for those who couldn't get married, for those who couldn't afford to get married, what was the recommendation he gave them? He told them to fast. He told them to fast because the fasting is going to control your desires. It's going to control your temperament. It's going to control your urges, and really this is how we change our personalities. If a person is very emotional, hot-headed, and very passionate about things, and sometimes it can be a negative thing. And if you want to control this, you start fasting, and it's going to change your temperament, it's going to change your mentality, it's going to change your mood. Everything's going to be a little bit more different. So fasting is a very, very powerful thing. Also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that, every single action that the slave of Allah that does, right, they do it for themselves, right? But the fasting, it's for Allah only. The fasting is for Allah only. Because when you're fasting, right, think about it. Nobody knows you're fasting. Nobody knows. Unless you say, hey, I'm fasting, or you're with your family members and you all decide to fast. Hey, listen, today is a Thursday, we're going to fast tomorrow. Today, or tomorrow's Thursday, tomorrow's Monday, we should fast, Unless somebody knows you're fasting, then nobody will ever suspect you're fasting. You understand? So this is a very personal worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because when you're reciting Quran, somebody knows if somebody's in the room, they know you're reciting. They know you're reciting Quran. When you're praying, if somebody's in the vicinity, if somebody's in the room, they know you're praying. But when you're fasting, nobody knows you're fasting except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, unless you reveal it. You understand? When you're praying, you may not have the intention of showing off. You may not have the intention of revealing it. You may be praying by yourself, but somebody walks by and sees you. They know you're praying. But it's not the case with fasting. This is an amazing and beautiful worship that we can do for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is like a very powerful package that we got. We got the spiritual package and we got the physical package, right? We didn't miss out on either or. We got a little bit of both. So don't be confused or dissuaded or affected by people that may not know about Islam, people that may not know about fasting, and don't listen to their advice, because Shaitan has a way of tricking people. Shaitan has a way of getting Muslims to do less than they want to do, right? A Muslim may not blatantly worship an idol. Right? Shaitan may not have the ability to convince a Muslim to worship an idol. Right? That sounds like something very far-fetched. However, Shaitan does have the ability to make the Muslim do less of a good deed. Right? He'll say that, don't fast because it's not healthy for you. You just read Quran instead. So he's replacing one good deed with another. And it may not be the same weight. It may not be. That example was not a good example. But let's say the Shaitan says don't fast, instead listen to the nasheed, right? Obviously listening to the nasheed is not a worship to the level of fasting, right? So something like that. So don't be so keeping a mind out for that. And the more you know, the more stronger your resolve is going to be. So you should always do your best to find out more about Ramadan and find out more about fasting and the benefits of it. So that way it keeps you motivated and keeps your resolve strong. In terms of fasting in Ramadan, I personally find it to be significantly easier, even if every single person around me is eating, to fast during the month of Ramadan. And I think it's one of the blessings of Ramadan. It's just a personal thing that I have. And I don't know what else can we say in this month about this month. Okay. And so, my brothers and sisters, if you're watching and you're having difficulties fasting just because of the community affecting you, maybe it's your environment, keep in mind that Allah has given you a tool to make you a better Muslim, as well as make you a better human being, a stronger human being, and a strong Muslim at the same time. And this is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And like I said, everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded us to do, it is for our own good. Absolutely it's for our own good, or the good of the society itself. Right? Just think about it, right? Just reflect upon it. We pray our 5 daily prayers. Why? It connects us with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is there that is more important and more necessary in our lives than to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? There's nothing else, right? So it connects us with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It helps us spiritually. It helps us pass the tests that are coming, right? In our graves, we're going to be asked about, the first thing we're going to be asked on the Day of Judgment is about the prayer, right? And this is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to tell us about this and for us to do it is preventing us from getting in a difficult spot in the hereafter, right? That's just praying. We talked about fasting, reciting the Quran. For every letter that you recite, you get 10 rewards for it, right? So for everything Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded us to do, there's such a huge blessing behind it. There's a huge good behind it, right? And we need to do it. And for everything Allah has prohibited us from doing, there's such good in that prohibition, right? Look at alcohol. How much harm does it bring? Any kind of intoxicants, how much harm can it bring? It can ruin families, it can ruin lives. I personally know Muslims whose lives are ruined just because they cannot get over addictions. And it's a very difficult thing. So it's a blessing to be able to not have that temptation, right? I know many non-Muslims who have lives ruined because of addiction. Okay, and Allah has prohibited us from this, not because He wants us to not enjoy it, but there's a lot of harm that comes with it. Okay, in terms of extramarital affairs, extramarital relationships, we're prohibited from doing these things. Why? Because it ruins the family life. You understand? It ruins the family. And if you look at contemporary times, people are in relationships without getting married. They have children without getting married. Some children don't even know who their fathers are. The court has to force a man to take care of his own child. It's a lot of confusion, right? And this destroys the society, because the foundation of the society is the family, right? If you break down the society is made up of what? It's not just made up of individuals, it's also made up of families. And when the family is in chaos, society is going to end up in chaos too. When you have many families in trouble and many families suffering and struggling, society is going to feel the same. It's going to feel its effect, right? So everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us to do is for the benefit of ourselves and the benefit of society. So we need to hold on to that very, very firmly. And this is absolutely the case with the month of Ramadan. It's a huge blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the Muslim ummah. And from the outside, it looks like you're just fasting. You're not eating. You're not drinking. You're not having marital relationships. You're not cursing. You're not doing things that are sinful. It may just look like that, but there's so much more deep down, right? There's so much more. Your relationship with Allah grows so much, right? There's so much a reward Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives. Your rewards are multiplied multiple times, right? Angels come and descend. It's absolutely an amazing blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's about 7:43, and I don't think we're able to get our guests tonight. I apologize about that. It was just an unforeseen circumstance that occurred. I hope this talk was beneficial to you, and I hope I have not made any mistakes in what I said. If I did, I ask Allah to forgive me, and I ask you guys to forgive me as well. Inshallah, I hope Allah makes practicing the religion easy for all of us, and I hope Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us those that He is well pleased with. Allahumma ameen. I will see you guys next time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.